When dreams pull two hearts in different directions, will love be strong enough to hold them together? When two souls fall in love, they imagine everything sunrises together, shared dreams, a home filled with laughter. But no one tells you what happens when those dreams start pulling you in opposite directions. When the love you nurtured suddenly feels like it's slipping through your fingers, not because of betrayal, not because of lies, but because life just got loud. Let me tell you the story of Liana and Ethan. A story that could be yours, mine, or anyone's who has ever juggled love with ambition. It started 5 years ago, in a cramped little coffee shop just off the subway line. Rain pelted the windows, people hurried by under broken umbrellas, and Liana, she was late. As always, she rushed in, laptop clutched to her chest, hair slightly damp from the drizzle, and eyes scanning the crowd. Not for anyone in particular, just for space. A chair, a quiet corner, anything. Ethan was already there. He had headphones in, typing away furiously. The only empty chair, directly across from him. Liana slid into it with a muttered, "I'll only be 10 minutes. Ethan didn't even look up. 10 minutes turned into an hour, and somewhere between stolen glances, borrowed phone chargers, and one spilled coffee, they found chemistry, that kind of effortless connection that feels like a shared secret. That same night, Liana texted her best friend, "Met someone. Might be trouble." Trouble, indeed, but the good kind. For the first few years, love was easy. They were broke, hungry, and full of dreams. Liana worked at a small firm designing retail interiors. Ethan freelanced from cafes, building app prototypes no one funded. Yet, they had late-night ramen, laughter in laundry rooms, and dreams sketched on napkins. Every little success felt like a shared win, a raise. Let's celebrate. An article published. Pizza night. Even failed pitches ended with cuddles and "we'll get there." But success is a tricky thing. It sneaks up quietly. 1 minute you're wishing for more, and the next, you have so much on your plate, you forget to sit down and eat together. Liana stands in front of a massive presentation screen, dressed in sleek corporate elegance. Her design for the new Global Art Museum extension is being reviewed by board members. Applause. "Congratulations, you're the lead architect now, Liana." She smiles, graciously, professionally, but later, alone in the taxi, she texts Ethan, "Got the lead drinks tonight?" No reply. Ethan? He's in another world physically and mentally. Across the city, he's pitching to a group of investors. His app Bridge Mind, designed to revolutionize productivity for creatives, is getting buzz, but buzz demands sacrifice. He misses her message. Again, this is how it begins. Not with a betrayal, not with a lie, but with moments missed. The dinner she planned. He's late. The weekend trip he promised. She cancels. Too much work. Nights become silent. Mornings rushed. They sleep in the same bed, but it feels distant. One night, Liana's best friend, Camille, corners her at brunch. "You've become a ghost, Liana. You talk about deadlines more than you talk about Ethan, because deadlines don't disappoint me," she blurts, then immediately regrets it. But it's the truth, isn't it? It's not just about being busy. It's about feeling alone, even when you're not seen. Ethan's apartment late night, then stares at his laptop, eyes bloodshot. He replays a video message from Liana from earlier in the week. "I just wanted to hear your voice. Let's talk tonight." He presses delete. Not because he's angry, because he feels guilty. That's the thing with ambition, it doesn't shout. It whispers. Just one more hour. Just one more deal. just one more promotion. Until that hour turns into weeks. Until that silence turns into space. Until love becomes a habit. And one night, Liana lays next to him, awake, staring at the ceiling. Her back turned, she whispers, "Do you think we're still us?" Ethan doesn't reply. He's already asleep. Or maybe pretending to be. That's where I'll leave you for now. At the edge of something fragile, where love still exists, but is no longer enough on its own, where choices are about more than passion. They're about priorities, and the hardest question of all lingers between them. Can we really have it all? Love. It doesn't vanish in a day. It fades, slowly, like paint left under the sun, until one day, you look at it and realize it's not as vibrant as it once was. Liana and Ethan. They were still together, but something had changed. Liana pours coffee into 2 mugs. She glances at the clock. 7:42 a.m. Ethan's meeting started 10 minutes ago. He's already gone. An kiss goodbye. No morning smile. Just a post-it on the fridge. Didn't want to wake you. Big pitch. Love you. She stares at the note like it's written in a foreign language. Love you. It feels like a memory now. Ethan's pitch goes well. He's offered the chance to expand Bridgman's operations into San Francisco. It's a huge opportunity. And he says yes, without telling Liana. Not because he's hiding it, but because telling her would make it real. And maybe he's scared of what her reaction will be. Liana's days are long, filled with back-to-back meetings, revisions and site visits. She's proud really, but exhausted and lonely. She calls Ethan during her lunch break. No answer. Leaves a voicemail. "Hey, I thought maybe we could grab dinner tonight. Just us." No laptops. Ethan's head is buried in code and strategy decks. His phone buzzes. He glances at it, sees Liana's name, lets it go to voicemail. I'll call her back later, he thinks. But he doesn't. Later never comes. Liana waits at the restaurant for almost an hour. Candle flickering. Her dress perfect. Table for 2. Slowly cleared for 1. When she finally walks home alone, heels in hand, she doesn't cry. She just exhales a long tired sigh. Ethan comes home. Quietly. He finds her sleeping on the couch, TV still on. He kneels beside her, brushing her hair back, kisses her forehead. "I'm sorry," he whispers, but she doesn't wake, and he doesn't repeat it. This is how distance forms, not in arguments, but in absences. In skipped dinners, in unspoken words, in pretending everything is fine. Liana finally finds a gap in her schedule. She books a 2-night stay in the countryside, sends Ethan the itinerary with a hopeful emoji. He replies 6 hours later. Looks amazing. But SF trip just got real. Might fly out next week. Can we postpone? She stares at the message, then closes the tab. Cancels the booking. Postpone what? The trip? The relationship? Camille visits that night. Liana tries to smile, but her voice cracks. "I feel like I'm loving him alone now." Camille hugs her, and for the first time in months Liana cries, not because she's angry, but because she misses him. And he's still right there. Ethan's not cold-hearted. He's torn. Bridgemind is finally taking off. His life's work, born in their 1-bedroom apartment, is becoming real. He wants to succeed. He wants to make her proud. But in chasing the dream, he's losing the person he dreamt it with. Liana makes a reservation at their favorite place, the one with paper menus and jazz music. Ethan shows up late, distracted, apologetic. She's quiet, hurt. Midway through the meal, She sets her fork down. Do you ever feel like we're not partners anymore? Ethan looks up, caught off guard. His silence says everything. I feel like we're running two marathons on different tracks, she whispers. I'm not trying to leave you behind, he says softly. Then why do I feel so alone? They leave early. Separate cabs. No goodbye kiss. That night. Liana journals. A habit she picked up to stay grounded. She writes, maybe love isn't about growing together anymore. Maybe it's about not growing apart. Ethan's in bed, scrolling through photos. Old ones. Back when they were broke and happy. A photo of Liana holding his first prototype, proudly announcing, this man's gonna change the world one app at a time. He smiles, then frowns. When did I stop making her feel like that? This is where stories usually pause at the fork in the road. Two people in love, but unsure if love alone is enough. The tension has peaked. Decisions must be made, and sometimes the hardest person to confront is the one you see in the mirror. Sometimes love isn't lost in a dramatic blaze. Sometimes it's worn down, sanded soft by the friction of silence. That's where Liana and Ethan found themselves now living side by side, yet somehow existing worlds apart. It was a Sunday morning. When it finally cracked, the sun had barely risen, casting amber stripes across their hardwood floor. Liana was up early, sipping lukewarm tea, staring out the window as city noise stirred to life. She hadn't slept well again. Ethan stirred. In the bedroom, the familiar creak of floorboards following him to the kitchen. He looked surprised to see her already awake, maybe even a little uneasy. She spoke first, softly, almost hesitant. Are we ever going to talk about this? He blinked. Talk about what? This, she motioned between them. Whatever this thing is. We're in the same space, but I haven't felt you in weeks. He opened his mouth to speak, but no words came. She hated that how silence had become his default reply to everything lately. She set her mug down. You didn't tell me about San Francisco. He looked up, startled. I found out through Camille, Ethan, that you're relocating. That it's not just a trip. He swallowed hard. I was going to tell you. She cut in. Did you even want me to be part of that decision? Or was it already made? He ran a hand through his hair. I didn't want to overwhelm you. You've been so busy with the museum project, and honestly, I didn't know how to bring it up. She stood up. You don't bring things up because you don't see me in your plans anymore. His voice was quiet. That's not true, isn't it? She asked. You say you love me, but I feel like an afterthought. The room went still. He stared at her, visibly torn, the weight of guilt pressed into his features. She softened, just a little. I'm not asking you to choose between your dream and me. I never did. But I'm not going to sit in the background while you run toward something that doesn't include us. I never meant to leave you behind, he whispered. But you already did. A beat of silence passed. The kind that fills the air before something breaks. He finally asked, What do you want, Liana? She looked at him, really looked at him. The man she had loved through everything, his uncertainty, his brilliance, his late-night brainstorms and weekend coding sessions. The man who once brought her tacos at midnight after a failed design pitch and promised, we'll build our futures side by side. And yet here they were. I want to breathe, she said. I want to stop waiting for you to remember me. Ethan nodded slowly. Then maybe we need time. She blinked, swallowing back a lump in her throat. Maybe we do. He didn't argue. He didn't plead. That hurt more than she expected. They spent the rest of that day in silence, him packing a bag, her folding laundry that didn't need folding. When he finally left, he paused by the door. "I still love you." Her voice cracked. "I know." But she didn't ask him to stay, and he didn't offer to. That night, the apartment echoed. It wasn't just the absence of his footsteps, his voice, his scent lingering in the pillows. It was the absence of hope. Liana poured herself a glass of wine and scrolled through old photos, ones from back when things were simple, when they were broke but brilliant, together in everything. There was one from a weekend trip where they got caught in the rain, laughing, drenched and kissing in the middle of the road. She saved it to her phone, then turned the screen off. Meanwhile, Ethan sat in a temporary flat across the city. It was modern, sleek and soulless. He stared at the blank ceiling, wondering if he'd just made the worst mistake of his life. Time passed measured in unread texts, unfinished conversations, and work meetings that didn't fill the void. Liana buried herself in her designs. She started jogging again. Camille came over more often. But at night, the bed still felt too big. Ethan launched the beta version of BridgeMind. It was a success. Investors were calling. The media praised him. But in the back of his mind, one voice kept whispering, "At what cost?" Then came the twist neither of them saw coming. 2 weeks after the breakup, Liana got a call. The museum project had been pulled. The board didn't approve the final plans. It wasn't her fault. But it didn't matter. Her dream project, her validation, her milestone was gone. She stood in the conference room, surrounded by colleagues who avoided eye contact and felt the walls closing in. That evening, she didn't go home. She walked the city for hours, retracing the steps of memories she'd rather forget. She found herself at the coffee shop where they met. It was still the same. Still had bad lighting and the same chalkboard specials. She sat in the corner, the very seat where she once stole space from a stranger, and she cried, not because she lost a project, but because she had nothing to go home to. Ethan, across town, got a text from one of their mutual friends. "Heard about Liana's project. She's not doing well. Just thought you should know." He stared at the message for minutes, hours. He wanted to call her, but he didn't know what to say. What do you say to someone you let down twice? In the end, he didn't call, but he couldn't sleep either. Both of them were chasing purpose, only to find themselves empty, and the space between them was filled with things unsaid, regrets unspoken. It was the loneliest success either of them had ever known. Sometimes it takes losing everything you thought you needed to realize what you truly couldn't live without. That's where Liana and Ethan found themselves on opposite sides of the same city, both alone, both quietly unraveling and slowly rebuilding. But they were no longer trying to return to what was. They were trying to discover who they were without each other. It started slowly. For Liana, it was the absence of pressure. For the first time in years, she didn't have deadlines hanging over her head. No late-night revisions. No AM site meetings. Just stillness. At first, it terrified her. Then it healed her. She started waking up without an alarm. She walked through art museums with no purpose but wonder. She took a pottery class, painted her tiny balcony garden, met Camille for spontaneous afternoon picnics in the park. It felt like breathing again. She thought of Ethan often, but she didn't reach out. Instead, she wrote in her journal, on napkins, in the margins of architecture books. She wrote about being a woman who gave too much, about chasing validation, about forgetting that she was worthy even without the title, the award, the attention. Her favorite entry simply read, "I was so busy trying to prove I could do it all, I forgot to ask myself if I wanted it all." Ethan, meanwhile, was learning that winning wasn't the same as happiness. Bridgman's launch was a hit. He was featured in tech blogs, spoke on panels, was invited to pitch in Tokyo and New York. But every time someone asked, "So what drives you?" he found himself stumbling. He couldn't say the truth, that his drive had always been tied to her. He tried to fill the space, dated casually, smiled for photos, attended networking parties with champagne flutes in hand, but it was hollow, because no one knew the version of him that Liana did. No one saw past the pitch decks and presentations. No one knew about his insomnia, or how he always added nutmeg to hot cocoa, or that his best ideas came while washing dishes. One night, he stood in a high-rise hotel room, watching the glittering city lights. He pulled out his phone and typed a message to her, "I miss you." But he never sent it. He deleted it, put the phone down, closed his eyes and whispered, "I'm sorry." Back at home, Liana wasn't waiting anymore. But she hadn't moved on either. She was evolving. She applied to teach part-time at a community college. Not because it would make headlines, but because it would matter. She helped redesign a public park in a low-income neighborhood, worked with high school students to create mini urban gardens. Small work, honest work, work that filled her soul, and in doing so, she remembered who she was before the hustle stole her softness. Her smile came back, not the polite, professional one, the real one, the one Ethan used to photograph when she wasn't looking. Weeks turned into 2 months. Then one day, Camille handed Liana an envelope. "No sender," she said. "Just this." Inside was a letter. No name, no signature, just words. "I saw a couple laughing at the train station today, and for a moment, I thought it was us. But it wasn't. And that's when I knew I don't want memories. I want moments. With you. Again, if you'd let me." Liana stared at it for hours, then tucked it away. She didn't call him, not yet, but she smiled. Because somewhere, something had shifted. She wasn't the same girl who begged for space in his calendar. And maybe, just maybe, he wasn't the same man who made her wait. Sometimes, space isn't the end. It's the reset, the silence between two songs, the breath before the next chapter, and just like that, the story of Liana and Ethan wasn't over. It was only changing. The funny thing about distance is that it doesn't just create space between two people. It gives you a chance to see things clearly, to strip away the noise, the pride, the fear. It had been almost 10 weeks since Liana and Ethan last saw each other, and when they did finally meet, it wasn't planned. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't even romantic. It was quiet, coincidence, fate, something in between. It was a Sunday afternoon. Camille had convinced Liana to come to an outdoor charity fundraiser. Local artists, food trucks, jazz musicians, just the sort of community vibe Liana had recently grown to love again. She wore a yellow sundress and her hair in a loose bun, paint still under her fingernails from a morning workshop with her students. She was finally genuinely happy, and that's when she saw him, across the crowd, by the coffee stand, wearing that same navy blue jacket she once borrowed and never gave back. Her heart skipped. Ethan. He looked thinner, more tired, but softer, too, like life had humbled him in all the ways it needed to. He hadn't seen her yet. She could've turned and walked away, could've slipped into the crowd, avoided the awkwardness, but instead, she walked toward him. He noticed her halfway there. Their eyes met, and for a full 3 seconds, The world went quiet. He smiled. A small, unsure thing. She smiled back, and then they stood face to face again for the first time in months. "Hi," she said gently. "Hi," he replied, voice low. Neither of them spoke for a moment. Then, nervously, he gestured toward a bench under a tree nearby. "Want to sit?" She nodded. They walked together, not touching, not speaking, but something felt different. Less heavy, like maybe the weight they'd carried had already been shed just by showing up. They sat a beat. Then she asked softly, "Did you write that letter?" He hesitated, then nodded. "I did." She turned to him. "Why didn't you sign it?" "I didn't want to make it about me," he replied. "I wanted the words to reach you without expectation." She nodded slowly. "They did. I didn't know if you'd respond," he added. "I didn't know if I wanted to," she admitted. He looked down at his hands. "That's fair." Another beat passed. Then, she said, "You look different." He smiled faintly. "I feel different." He looked at her. "You look happy." "I am," she replied truthfully. He nodded, quietly taking that in. "I lost the museum project," she said suddenly. His eyes widened. "What? When?" "2 months ago." Board pulled out. I was crushed. But she looked out at the crowd. A child laughing in the distance, a mural being painted nearby turns out. I needed to lose it. It helped me find something else. "Like what?" "Myself," she said. Ethan didn't respond at first. Then, voice low, he said, "I lost you." The air between them shifted. She met his eyes. "I let my ambition drive everything," he continued. "Told myself it was for us, for the future. That really, I just didn't know how to stop chasing. I was scared that if I slowed down, I wouldn't be enough." Liana softened. "You were always enough," she whispered. "You just weren't present." He swallowed hard. "I know. And I'm sorry." "Truly?" She nodded. "I thought success would fill the gaps," he said. "It didn't." "I know that feeling," she replied. They sat in silence again, this time more peaceful. Then Ethan asked, "Would you ever consider starting again?" Liana turned to him, studying him. "I don't want to go back," she said gently. "I don't want to be the version of us that ran on guilt and silence. I don't either. I want something healthier, balanced, where love doesn't come second to success." Ethan nodded. "I want that too. I'm ready for it now." "Really?" She looked away for a moment, thoughtful, then turned back. "Okay," she said. His eyes searched hers. "Okay, we can talk. See where it leads." Slowly, he smiled, relieved, grateful. Slow is good. They stood, and for the first time in a long time, they hugged, not out of habit, not out of nostalgia, but out of a real, present moment of care. That night, Liana journaled again. "He's not the same man I let go. I'm not the same woman he lost. Maybe that's why we finally have a chance." Ethan, in his small flat, reopened an old folder of photos, this time not to mourn the past, but to remember what was worth rebuilding. They didn't jump back in. They didn't announce it to the world. They just talked. One message at a time. One coffee at a time. One honest moment at a time. Because sometimes, love doesn't need fireworks. It just needs two people who are finally ready to meet each other exactly where they are. Healing doesn't look like a fairy tale. It looks like uncomfortable conversations. Like setting boundaries where there once were none. Like learning to listen before speaking. And choosing deliberately to stay, even when it's hard. That's what rebuilding looked like for Liana and Ethan. Not grand gestures, but effort. Every single day, They didn't move back in together, not yet. Instead, they met once or twice a week, coffee shops, park walks, slow dinners at cozy restaurants. The pressure was gone. They weren't trying to fix the old version of their relationship. They were trying to create something new, something that could breathe. It started with a question Ethan asked over Thai takeout on a rainy Thursday night. What does love mean to you now? Liana paused, surprised. Then she answered, love means someone who sees all of me and doesn't try to compete with my dreams. Someone who's there even when I fall apart. Someone who chooses me, even on the hard days. But mostly, someone who listens. He nodded. Then, he asked the next important question. What do you need from me now? And that's when she smiled, because she knew this version of Ethan was ready to grow with her. They shared what they needed. He promised to make time. She promised to speak up. He committed to not letting work bleed into every part of his identity. She committed to not shrinking herself to make room for anyone else's ambition. Together, they laid new ground rules. Sunday mornings were sacred. No work, no phones, just them. One midweek check-in call, short, honest, no distractions, no saying yes to everything just to impress the world. And if one felt the other was slipping, they'd say it gently, but clearly. They weren't perfect. There were still late meetings, forgotten texts, misunderstandings, but the difference now, they noticed. They addressed it. They apologized, and they kept choosing each other. Liana's teaching job blossomed. Her students adored her. She started a mentorship program for underprivileged girls who wanted to study design. She wasn't getting rich, but she was rich in purpose. Ethan, meanwhile, handed over part of his company's operations to a CEO founder. He finally let go of needing to be the hero of the story. He took weekends off. He showed up, literally and emotionally. When Liana spoke at a small conference about sustainable architecture for human needs, Ethan sat in the front row. He didn't check his phone once. Afterward, he brought her sunflowers, not roses, sunflowers, because he remembered. From years ago, she once said, sunflowers always turn toward the sun even when it's hard to find it. I want to be like that. One evening, sitting together on her balcony, she leaned into him and asked, do you think we would've made it if we hadn't broken up? He thought for a moment, then shook his head. No, we were too busy pretending everything was okay. Sometimes you have to fall apart to realize what matters. She nodded. Would you do anything differently? Yes, he said. I would've listened more, asked more questions, said fewer things out of fear, and I would've told you sooner. He looked at her. That no career is worth losing. Someone who makes you feel like home. She blinked back, emotion. That's a good line. I've had time to write it. He teased gently. They laughed, a soft, shared sound. There was no more tension in the silence between them. Only peace. Weeks turned into months, and one day, Ethan brought her a small wrapped box. Inside, a sketchbook. On the cover, a print of that napkin doodle they'd made during their very first coffee shop meeting. Inside, on the first page, he'd written, this time, let's build something we never have to run from. She closed the book slowly and looked up at him. I'm not going anywhere, she said. And he replied, neither am I. You know, a relationship is healing when it stops being yours and mine, and starts becoming ours again. For Liana and Ethan, love no longer lived in romantic dinners or apologies. It lived in calendars synced with intention, in arguments followed by listening, in knowing each other's tired sighs, and responding with grace. But something was still missing, not in their bond, not in their trust, but in their purpose. They had grown individually, yes. They had healed what had broken, but they hadn't yet built anything together. Until one evening, sitting by the fireplace in Liana's apartment, Ethan brought it up. He was quiet for a while, just staring into the flickering light. Then, out of nowhere, he said, "What if we combined what we love?" Liana looked up, curious. "What do you mean? You love architecture. I love tech. What if we created something that merges both?" She raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "Like what?" He smiled. "I've been thinking. A digital platform to connect young creatives with hands-on design projects in their communities. Architecture, sustainability, urban renewal. A space for students to learn and apply while making a difference." Her eyes lit up. "You mean like a bridge between mentorship and action?" He nodded. "Exactly. Something that gives them access to both guidance and real-world opportunities. And we could do it together: design, development, outreach." Liana paused, then smiled. "I love it." And just like that, they began again, not just as partners in love, but as co-creators of something meaningful. They named the project Rootspace. The idea: grow roots, inspire creativity, build communities. It started small, Ethan prototyping the site, Liana designing the brand identity. They worked late nights, but it felt different now. They took breaks, talked openly, celebrated little wins, and most importantly, they kept each other in sight, even when ambition tried to pull them forward. Rootspace's first pilot program launched in a small neighborhood in the city. Liana's old students helped design a community garden. Ethan's platform helped them pitch it to local sponsors. Kids from underfunded schools joined. Volunteers came. The community transformed, not just physically, but emotionally. People gathered again, smiled again, created again, and amidst the soil, laughter and sunlight, Liana and Ethan watched something bloom that wasn't just for them. It was from them. Together, the media caught on quickly. Coupled built tech design platform to reclaim creativity in underserved communities. They did interviews, but instead of focusing on their past mistakes, they shared their journey forward. Ethan spoke at a university, and when asked what inspired Rootspace, he replied, "We almost lost each other because we thought success had to be lonely. This time, we decided to build something that brings people closer instead." Liana later told a crowd at a young designers summit, "The world tells you that you can't have both love and ambition. But the truth is, you just need to define success on your own terms. For me, success is building a life where both can coexist, with someone who chooses you over and over, and choose each other." They did. Every day, not perfectly, not effortlessly, but intentionally. One Saturday afternoon, as they oversaw the installation of a solar-powered art display at a Rootspace site, Liana stood back and looked around. Children were painting, teens were planting, parents were volunteering, and Ethan, he was helping a kid debug his first HTML line on a dusty laptop, both of them laughing uncontrollably. She walked over to him. He looked up and smiled, sweat on his brow, light in his eyes. "What?" he asked. She shook her head, smiling softly. "Nothing. Just you." He stood up, wiped his hands and kissed her forehead, and for the first time in a long time, Liana thought to herself, "This is what real success feels like." It wasn't about the check marks, the recognition, the titles. It was about fulfillment, connection, love that didn't just survive but thrived. because they finally understood you don't have to choose between love and ambition. You just have to love each other loudly. Even when life tries to drown you out, love doesn't always arrive with fireworks. Sometimes it returns with clarity, and this time, when Liana and Ethan looked at each other, they didn't see unfinished business. They saw a future, a future they were choosing together. It had been a year since their quiet reunion, since the day under that tree where they promised to go slow, since Root Space became not just a project, but a purpose. In that time, they hadn't rushed anything. No dramatic declarations, no moving back in overnight, no Instagrammable milestones. Instead, there were morning coffees, post-it notes on mirrors, shared to-do lists, and quiet pride in each other's progress. Liana had found her rhythm. She was now a part-time educator, part-time architect of microenvironments for urban well-being. Her name wasn't in glossy magazines, but it was in the notebooks of students who admired her. Ethan, too, evolved. He no longer chased the next big pitch. Instead, he mentored young coders, focused on the mission more than the metrics, and Root Space. It expanded. 4 new neighborhoods joined. 3 cities reached out. The press came. But this time they didn't let it distract them from what mattered. Then, one autumn morning, something shifted. Liana was reviewing site blueprints in their CO working studio when she found a small envelope tucked under her tablet. No name, just the Root Space logo. She opened it, curious. Inside, a hand-drawn map. It led to a rooftop garden, one they had designed together months ago, but never finished. The top corner of the map, scribbled in Ethan's handwriting, "Meet me where we planted the lavender." She smiled, heart suddenly racing. By sunset, she was there. The rooftop was empty, quiet, sky painted in orange and gold, and there he stood, wearing the same navy jacket from their first meeting. Nervous, but glowing, he took her hand. "I don't have a speech," he began. "I've already said too much in the past, and not enough when it mattered." She smiled softly. "Then just say what you feel." He nodded. "I don't want a life that keeps pushing you to the edges. I don't want a future that celebrates me more than it supports us." He paused. "I don't need the spotlight. I just want to build this, you and me, one moment at a time." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small ring box. Inside, no diamonds, just a simple silver band engraved with the Root Space coordinates. "Not a proposal," he said. "Not yet. Just a promise that I'll keep showing up for you, for us, that I won't forget what matters again." Liana's eyes brimmed with tears. She took the ring, slipped it on, and said the words that sealed everything. "Let's grow something no one else can see, but only we can feel." They stood there, the city below, lavender in the air, heart steady, and so this is how their story began again. Not in the glitter, but in the grounding, not with a race, but with roots. They built their careers, and they built their love, brick by brick, breathe by breathe. There were still hard days, deadlines, disagreements, distractions, but there was also presence, and patience, and purpose, because they finally learned you don't have to choose between love and ambition. You just have to build a world where they can live side by side. A documentary crew filming youth projects visited one of the Root Space gardens. They asked a little girl what Root Space meant to her. She said, "It means people didn't forget us. It means people cared." The camera panned to Liana and Ethan watching in the background, hands clasped, smiles quiet and full. Not perfect, but together. And that was everything. So if you ever find yourself torn between the things you love, remember this: You can be brilliant and loved. You can be tired and still worthy. You can fall apart and rebuild something even stronger. Just don't let the world convince you that love is a distraction from your dreams, because sometimes it's the very reason you dream in the first place. Thanks for watching. Hoped you liked it. If you watched till the end, please comment love. As well as, please let us know, where are you watching from? Before leaving, please hit the subscribe button, comment your thought, and share with your nearest and dearest. 1. See you in the next one. Until to the next one, spread love.